Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. This is your host, Andy Curry. Today, I am really excited because I have on the line with me Marcia Reynolds, who has been speaking for 20 years. She speaks on some big topics that I really like, and that would be emotional intelligence, advanced coaching skills, and general leadership. We'll talk about those here in just a moment. Marcia speaks in the U.S., but does a lot more international speaking than in the U.S. She is based out of Arizona and has written 3 books. The first one is called Outsmart Your Brain. I'm really anxious to hear about that. The second one is Wander Woman. It's not Wonder Woman, it's Wander with an A. So it's Wander Woman, How High-Achieving Women Find Contentment and Direction. That is an Amazon bestseller. And her third book called The Discomfort Zone, How Leaders Turn Difficult Conversations into Breakthroughs. And that also is an Amazon bestseller. So Marcia, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We are very happy to have you with us. Let's talk about your speaking business. Who is it that you're talking to, and what is it you're teaching them? How are you helping them?
When I talk to people in corporations, it's primarily leaders, and for the most part, they need to have more powerful conversations with people. For years, they've been taught how to speak to people, but not really how to listen for what they need to say so they can help change people's minds and behavior. So I speak to a lot of leaders in corporations around the world. I also work with coaches who work with these leaders, a lot of executive coaches, leadership coaches, in helping them develop their skills to improve what they're doing when they work with leaders.
Okay. So that's the coaching part. Now, when you're talking to people, helping them with coaching, what kind of things are you teaching them?
You know, when I said that it's really about the listening, that's most important. That even when leaders talk to people, the quality of the listening they do makes such a difference on the impact they have. So if I feel when you're listening to me that you're interested in me, that you care about me and my results, and that you hold me in high regard, and sometimes maybe even see me as being able to do more than I can see for myself, when I feel that, and it really is an emotion, then I'm more open to speak with you. I trust you. I will open up to you. But it also inspires me to want to take on more and do more. So there's an interesting thing that happens in how we listen to people that has an impact, even beyond the words. So a lot of what I'm teaching is how to listen at these levels, and then what are you listening for? So you can actually have this conversation that helps to change people's minds.
What's a good tip you can give listeners on how to listen better?
Well, this is where I kind of combine the emotional intelligence and the coaching skills. Is one of the things you need to do before you go into any conversation is to even ask, how am I feeling at this moment? Because everyone in every company that I know around the world is just overburdened, stressed, frustrated. There's a lot of pressures. And yet when they look at the person who they're speaking to, they have to stop, take a breath, and then really say to themselves that I need to be present and then curious and interested in this person and to feel it. Because we know when we're talking to someone if they're really present with us or not. And the leader sets the emotional tone in any conversation. So whatever the leader is feeling, that emotion is going to be contagious with the people around them. And so they have to be really aware of what they're feeling in the moment and then make that shift.
You know, that's a good tip for leaders, but it also strikes me that's a good tip for parents. And do you do any talking to parents, or is it mostly leaders and business people?
That's interesting because in all of my classes, there's always somebody that says, can I use this with my kids? And so it's amazing how these skills are transferable, of course, to the home and in many relationships with people, because we all have this great desire to be listened to be seen, to be understood, and really heard. And it makes such a difference. And when you do that with your children, what a difference that makes. So, take it home.
What if you're talking to your child or even an employee, and when they're telling you something and you just totally don't agree with it, but you have to be careful in what you say because you're thinking, well, they need to feel like they're understood. How do you handle that?
Well, even if you disagree with someone, you still want to acknowledge their perspective. So even by starting and saying, I understand your point of view and how you would see it that way. So that way you're not discounting me right off the bat by saying, oh, no, that's not it. So I know that you hear me. And then you might then say, I just have a different perspective and this is why. And then you can talk about your own experiences and maybe some things that the person didn't know, that you provide them that information. So start first by acknowledging the person and just allowing them to see, to understand, to feel the way they do. Don't make it wrong. And then you can do an and. This is how I see it.
Instead of a but.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've heard that before.
Oh, yeah. Everybody heard that, I think. Yeah, a but definitely disqualifies what they say, I would think.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Now, I'm interested in your book called Outsmart Your Brain.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What do you mean by outsmart your brain?
Well, that book was actually my first one, and I wrote it as I was teaching emotional intelligence, starting to do that around the world. I'm actually one of the first people out there in 1997 that was teaching this, and so everyone was asking me for a book. So I wrote it, a smaller version, and I've expanded on it, and it really is helping people to understand, how do I stop in this moment and not only sense what I'm feeling, but know why. Because I don't have a choice of acting and feeling differently unless I first understand why I feel the way I do. And that's not easy because we have all these triggers and then we justify and rationalize our behavior. So you outsmart your brain by understanding why and then choosing something else. So there's all these tips, routines, things to do to recognize when I'm feeling, understand why, and then choose to feel something different or let it go. Just let it go in the moment. So it's primarily that, but there's also a few things on how do you understand what's going on in the other person as well. So there's a little bit on increasing your empathy in the book.
I like that, emotional intelligence. So the emotional intelligence is a big part of your speaking content, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now I can see how that really ties in. I mean, you're tying these all together a lot of times, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, they did kind of like build one on the other for me in the work that I do. And yeah, they do tie together. And I think to be able to have good leadership conversations and doing coaching, that you need to have a little bit of emotional intelligence to be good at that. And emotional intelligence requires truly listening at a deeper level, which is what I teach in coaching. So there's a big overlap.
So are you defining emotional intelligence as listening at a deeper level? Is that what you mean? Is that your definition?
Well, the Greek root of the word intelligence means choice. So emotional intelligence really is choosing my emotion. So there is a listening to self. I have to really know what I'm feeling and why so I can make that conscious choice. And then when you're listening to someone else, you have to listen between the words to really get what they want, what they need, and what they're not saying because they can't articulate it. So there is a big element of listening in emotional intelligence, but the definition really is emotional choice.
You hit on something that I've studied a lot in the past. I'm a self-help junkie myself, and people are always saying things to themselves, or you know how fast thoughts just flash into your mind and go by, and you don't even see it, but yet your brain picks up on it like a negative thought or something. And I think a lot of that is habit. Would you say or what do you think?
Well, we do think very fast, and even faster, we rationalize. So I always say that we make decisions with our emotions, but we justify them with our logic. Mm-hmm. So we quickly rationalize everything we choose to do unless we stop in the moment and say, honestly, what's going on here? What's really bothering me in this situation? What did I think this person took from me or isn't giving me that I really want, like respect, credibility, safety? And that is a little difficult for us to do on ourselves because we do think so quickly. So, yeah, you can develop the skill for yourself, but it's always great to have either a coach or somebody you know that has some good, solid listening and coaching skills to help you process these situations that you get stuck in.
That's a great point. I spoke with an expert on something very similar to this, and she said, one way to attack it is look at the facts, how much of that is fact, and lay out each fact. And then if it's not fact, it's something that you've made up in your mind, and you chose to believe it, and then you acted on that.
Yeah. I often ask the question, so what do you know to be true in this situation, and how do you know that to be true? And how many times people stop and say, it's like, oh, I don't know, I guess I'm making it up. So there's so many assumptions that we make in the moment about how terrible things are going to be, that if you just step back, and say, what do I really know to be true about this situation? Even that alone helps you make better decisions.
That's a great way to put it, too. I like that and the fact part. Now, if you're getting people to say what I know to be true, do you find people find it hard to think to themselves, well, maybe that's true, even though they made it up in their mind?
Yeah. Well, when I work with people, when I do executive coaching, I first just ask them, what's going on, because it's almost like they have to have that emotional release first, and then they tell me how terrible things are and what they're worried about and what they're angry about. And again, I don't say that's wrong. I just validate it. I understand you're feeling that way. The boss you love is leaving. You're sad. You're angry that you don't get to choose the next one. But the thing is that once they lay out all those feelings, it's like a release. Then if I say, so what do you know to be true in this moment? Mm-hmm. They're more apt to be able to think about it and go, oh, it's just this. So it's almost like you got to get that emotional mess out of the way before you can actually say what, really look at what's true for you in this moment.
That is, to me, that's genius counseling for people. Now, where did you learn this? Do you have a counseling background or anything?
I have a doctorate in organizational psychology.
Aha.
That, and I'm a master certified coach, and so I've been practicing and teaching coaching for 18 years. So I got a lot of experience.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that's fabulous information. I mean, just that bit alone is that's going to change my day, I guarantee you, and I'll bet the listeners think the same thing. Now, you've got a website, and on your website, do you have things that people can go to and buy to help them with stuff like that? Because I think, generally speaking, the population, that's a big problem, isn't it?
Yeah. That's why I'm here. On the website, the AskMarciaBrain.com, under resources, there are a lot of tips. There's an emotional intelligence inventory, so you can track your emotions and why, things on emotional triggers. So there's a lot of free things under the resource section. And I also have a blog, and so I'm writing about this and what I'm learning, and I share that, on a monthly basis.
Okay. So that was outsmartyourbrain.com, just like the name of your book.
Yep.
Now, when people want to get hold of you, hear you speak, that kind of thing, is that where they contact you?
They can go there, or it's just Marcia, Marcia, at outsmartyourbrain.com.
Okay, very good. Well, Marcia, thank you so much for giving us a peek into your life, what you do to help people. That's great information. I think especially, I mean, all of it was great, but me personally, I really liked the part about what do you know to be true about this. I think the public in general doesn't realize the conversations they're having in their head and the negative things they tell themselves. And I think, I don't know why, but I do think humans have a propensity to be negative.
Yeah, well, the brain is paranoid by nature in order to keep you alive and surviving on the planet. So we do have to override it and outsmart it on a regular basis.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much, Marcia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.